For almost 2,500 years, one name has just echoed through history as the ultimate symbol of power, of ambition, of pure conquest. And that name is Alexander the Great. In a life that burned incredibly bright and was over way too soon, he didn't just win a few battles. He literally redrew the map of the known world. His own father, King Philip II, actually said this to him. And can you imagine? He said it in total awe after watching his 10-year-old son do something no one thought was possible: tame this wild, ferocious horse named Bucephalus that no grown man could get near. It was like a prophecy, and man, did it set the course for history. But that title, the Great, it comes with some serious baggage, right? Was his legacy one of brilliant unification, bringing cultures together? Or was it just brutal, unchecked ambition? In this explainer, we're going to follow the story of a man who conquered the entire world, but maybe, just maybe, lost the battle against himself. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. Our story kicks off in 356 BC. He's born into royalty. I mean, serious royalty. His dad is King Philip of Macedon, a military powerhouse, and his mom is the, let's say, intense Queen Olympias. From day one, this kid was being groomed for something absolutely extraordinary. Now, what's so fascinating about how he grew up is this total split. On one side, you've got this super strict tutor, Leonidas, drilling him in the brutal realities of combat and warfare. But on the other hand, his mentor was literally the greatest mind of the age, Aristotle, who's teaching him philosophy, logic, art. So you end up with this incredible mix, a philosopher's mind inside a warrior's body. So you'd think he'd just inherit the throne, right? Nope, not even close. His path to power wasn't some simple handover. It was a dramatic, violent, and frankly, a ruthless climb that started when he was only 20 years old. And that path, it was paved with the blood of anyone who got in his way. Things with his father got really tense, especially after Philip took a new wife, which basically threatened Alexander's claim to the throne. It all boiled over at a public banquet, Alexander makes an insult, and bam, he's exiled. And then, just when it seems like they've patched things up, King Philip is shockingly assassinated by his own bodyguard. Suddenly, a 20-year-old Alexander is thrust into power. And this is where you see the cold, hard calculation behind his ambition. He moved with terrifying speed to lock down his crown. He had his father's new wife and her baby killed. He systematically hunted down and eliminated every other potential rival. And when the Greek city of Thebes decided to rebel, he made a brutal example of them. He burned the entire city to the ground. The message was crystal clear: you do not cross the new king. All right, so with his power base in Greece completely secure, Alexander turned his attention to the big prize, the one his father had always dreamed of but never achieved: the conquest of the massive Persian Empire. In 334 BC, he crossed into Asia, and believe me, the world was never going to be the same. Just stop and think about the sheer audacity of this. He was marching against the largest, most powerful empire on Earth, an empire that stretched across 3 continents, and he did it with an army of just 47,000 men. I mean, it was an absolutely epic gamble. So early in his campaign, there's this famous story. He comes across the Gordian knot, this impossibly tangled knot, with a prophecy that said whoever could undo it would rule all of Asia. So while everyone else is trying to figure out the loops, Alexander just shrugs, takes a different approach, draws his sword, and slices right through it. Problem solved. That's so Alexander. But his genius wasn't just about bold shortcuts. The guy had this relentless, almost stubborn determination. Take the city of Tyre. It was an island fortress. Everyone thought it was unconquerable. So what does Alexander do? For 7 straight months, his army built a massive stone bridge, a causeway, through the ocean itself just to roll their siege towers up to the city walls. It was an absolutely mind-blowing feat of military engineering. But here's the dark side to that victory. He was so enraged by how long and costly the siege was that when the city finally fell, he unleashed his full fury. 8,000 of Tyre's citizens were massacred. So you get this wild contrast, right? Who was this guy? A liberator or a destroyer? Because in Egypt, they hailed him as a savior, a son of a god who freed them from Persian rule. He even founded the great city of Alexandria there. But for anyone who resisted, like the people of Tyre, he was an agent of pure destruction. He was both of these things, all at once. And he just kept winning. In this stunning string of battles, Granicus, Issus, and the big one, Gaugamela, Alexander just completely dismantled the Persian Empire. His smaller, better-trained army consistently outmaneuvered and crushed the huge forces of the Persian king, Darius, who ended up having to literally run for his life. And just like that, the Persian Empire had fallen. But here's the thing about a guy like Alexander. Conquering Persia? That wasn't enough. Not even close. His ambition had no off switch, and he pushed his army and his luck right to the very edge of the known world. His campaign takes him all the way to India, where he faces what might have been his toughest opponent ever, King Porus and his terrifying army of war elephants. The battle was absolutely brutal, a real meat grinder. Alexander won, but he was so impressed by how bravely Porus fought that he actually offered to let him keep ruling his kingdom, just as an ally. But it's in India that Alexander finally meets a force he just can't conquer: the pure exhaustion of his own men. Think about it, a decade of nonstop marching and fighting. His army finally put their foot down and refused to go one step further. As one of his generals told him, they were just desperate to go home. For the very first time, Alexander was forced to turn back. I mean, just look at the timeline of his final years. It's insane. The pace is just relentless. He marries a princess, Roxana, to shore up his empire. He forces his generals to marry Persian noblewomen to try and merge the two cultures. And even after his army forces him to turn back, he gets to Babylon and is already planning his next campaign, this time into Arabia. The man just never, ever stopped. So here he is. He's done it. He's conquered the world. He is at the absolute peak of his power, a living legend. And then, in the city of Babylon, the whole story just comes to this sudden, mysterious, and totally shocking end. After all of that, all the battles, the sieges, the marches across entire continents, Alexander the Great died. He was only 32 years old. And the circumstances around his death are still a huge debate. The story goes that after a long night of partying and drinking, he was suddenly hit with a violent fever. Over the next 12 days, his health just completely collapsed until he couldn't even speak or move. Was it a natural cause, like malaria or typhoid, or, as many have suspected for centuries, was he secretly poisoned by a rival? We'll probably never know for sure. So when you try to nail down his legacy, it's a real puzzle, isn't it? He was a brilliant tactician, no doubt, but also a brutal conqueror. He was a cultural unifier who brought East and West together, but he was also a ruthless politician. The thing is, he wasn't one of these things. He was all of them, all at once. And without that one single driving force holding it all together, the massive empire he built couldn't last. It shattered almost immediately, carved up by his generals, who then fought each other in a series of brutal wars. And Alexander himself? He just vanished. His tomb, which was once a famous landmark, was lost to time, and its location is now one of history's greatest, most tantalizing mysteries. Which leaves us right here with these huge questions. He achieved a kind of immortality. He absolutely changed the world, but it came at a staggering human cost. So what does it really mean to be great? And you have to wonder, what might have been for him and for all of us if he had only lived?